Allie McCabe lied. Colin lied. What?
Loophole lawyer, who's a very funny guy. His two thing is, Colin Albert did not kill John O'Keefe. The real person who killed John O'Keefe was
Brian Higgins.
Surprise. What?
One of the biggest mistakes Karen Reed ever made was not telling me about Brian Higgins.
Brian Higgins.
She tells me the truth about Brian Higgins. This is a totally different story.
My head has popped off. Bang, 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 bang. The exact time Colin left the house is a heavily disputed fact in this case.
New allegations have surfaced alleging that little Colin Albert and Allie lied about when and where they were picked up on that fateful morning. Let's watch.
When Mr. O'Keefe arrived at the house around 12:30 a.m. on January 29th of 2022, the medical evidence demonstrates conclusively that he was beaten up, punched in the face, and knocked backwards, sustaining a fatal wound to the back of his head. In the immediate aftermath, those individuals in the house attempted to cover up their role in Mr. O'Keefe's death. For Colin's part, he claims he left prior to Mr. O'Keefe's death and was picked up from the house by his best friend, in quotes, Allie McCabe, and driven straight home. However, the timing of his arrival at home is inconsistent with when he claims he departed the house. In a photograph taken shortly after January 29th of 2022, Colin had scabs on his knuckles of his dominant hand that one would expect to see as a result of a fistfight. Oh, they're telling us everything. No wonder he went to the army.
In trial number 1, we were shown pictures of little Colin Albert's knuckles, and they did contain scabbing and bruising. The defense attempted to use this photograph as evidence that little Colin Albert beat John O'Keefe on January 29, 2022. However, several pictures of little Colin's hands were both obtained in between the dates John was killed and the date of the photograph containing the bloody knuckles. The picture with the bloody knuckles was taken at the bar on February 26, 2022. 15 days prior to the bloody knuckles picture, 2 pictures were taken of little Colin Albert showing both of his hands. Both pictures have a timestamp of February 11, 2022, which is obviously 10 days after John O'Keefe was murdered at 34 Fairview. Fortunately for little Colin, both pictures depict both of his hands. Therefore, any inversion or mirroring would not have any effect on the fact that his hands did not have any injuries after John O'Keefe was murdered, but before the bloody knuckle picture was taken.
Despite this new information, Proctor failed to confirm Colin's statements by seizing his cell phone or Allie's or pulling carrier records. On September 1st of 2023, Trooper Yuri Buchanan authored a 6-sentence report stating that he had contacted Colin in an attempt to have him turn over text messages he had captured screenshots of between Allie McCabe and himself on January 29th of 2022. There is no report memorializing what prompted Buchanan to call Colin, how Buchanan had obtained Colin's phone number, or how he became aware that Colin was suddenly in possession of text message evidence. Well, I don't know. You think there's anything in Proctor's phone that might indicate that? Because I bet you anything, they have they know exactly how Yuri Buchanan got Colin's information and screenshots. I bet you it's all in there.
The answer to how Yuri Buchanan obtained little Colin Albert's contact information is less sinister. A few days after Allie was interviewed by Yuri, she provided him with not only the text messages and these pictures, but also a screenshot of Colin Albert's telephone number, and he utilized that to actually contact Colin several days later.
Data downloaded from the Life360 application on Jennifer McCabe's phone shows timestamp notifications of Allie McCabe's arrivals and departures from addresses throughout the early morning hours of January 29th. Not only does the Life360 data prove that Allie McCabe did not travel straight home after dropping off Colin, as she told Buchanan in an August 25th, 2023 interview, more importantly, the data shows no evidence of an arrival or a departure from 34 Fairview or Colin's house at any time on January 29th.
And this allegation in the motion sparked hope amongst those who believed that little Colin Albert was involved in the murder of John O'Keefe. Life360 is an app that allows white parents to track exactly where their kids are. The problem is the app relies heavily on being connected to some form of a Wi-Fi network, which results in severely inaccurate data, especially at that time, or if you're not near a strong enough Wi-Fi connection. There's also some clever attorney wording here. If you read the allegation carefully, it sets forth that based upon the notifications that Jen received, Little Allie never picked up Colin Albert at 34 Fairview. This allegation may be true, but notifications to Jen are not the best data for which Life360 is outputting. In fact, at the trial, we heard David Yannetti questioning Allie with regard to better data and more information than is provided here.
What? They have Allie's Life360 data. There is no evidence of Allie McCabe arriving or departing from 34 Fairview or Colin's house at any time on January 29th. My head has popped off. It is in Connecticut. What? Allie McCabe lied. Colin lied. Surprise. Bang, 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 bang. Trigger warning for language. Fucker. I'm such a raging bitch. Bitch, you ain't seen nothing yet, motherfucker. They've got our Life360 data. That is explosive.
Loophole lawyer, who's very funny guy, very witty guy. His two thing is, Colin Albert did not kill John O'Keefe. The real person who killed John O'Keefe was
Brian Higgins.
Brian Higgins. Brian does that thing. No, he thinks it was just Higgins.
Sending somebody flowers?
And Colin Albert was not there, and Jennifer McCabe did not Google how long did I cold. Those are his two things he sticks to. Both incorrect. Both incorrect.
How dare you?
How dare you?
Chris Albert testified that he left the waterfall bar at like midnight. Like he said, he's like, it takes like 5 minutes to get home. I walked home. I went upstairs.
I went up to the bedroom, took off my clothes, jumped in bed.
And then started dozing off. 15 minutes later, he says, Colin came in. Then the waterfall video comes out. It shows Chris leaving at 12:14. He couldn't have been home before 12:20. Bottom line is, according to his own story, Colin could not have gotten home before 12:45, which puts him at 34 Fairview at 12:30.
I'm not sure about Turtle Boy's math, but the good news is we can calculate when Chris Albert approximately got home. There he is leaving the waterfall at 12:13 and 44 seconds.
Waterfall to Maple's probably less than 5 minutes.
If you're leaving the bar at like close to 12:14, as indicated on the video, you're getting home somewhere around 12:19, 12:20, correct?
Roughly, yeah.
According to his own story, Colin could not have gotten home before 12:45.
And the timing is important in the first trial because we all failed to recognize Higgy Bear threatening John O'Keefe on video. We tried to pin this on someone else. They tried to use Colin as the scapegoat. It just wasn't working. It was a huge distraction and almost got Karen convicted. In order for Colin to have the opportunity to kill John O'Keefe, he would have to be there at 12:24 when John O'Keefe arrived. Turtle Boy's claiming that Chris Albert leaving the bar at 12:14 is evidence that Colin Albert was at 34 Fairview at 12:45. I don't see the connection.
When you came home, you would agree with me that your son, Colin Albert, was not home.
Not when I first got home.
That's an important statement in the timeline. If he leaves the waterfall at 12:14 and it takes him 5 minutes to get home, that means that at 12:19, Colin Albert is not at his house.
I think your testimony was 10 minutes after you got home, he opened the bedroom door.
I think that's what I said, yeah.
Information that you had as
If that's true, the latest little Colin would have been home was 12:30.
to where Colin was that night. Is that something that came via text as well, or was that a phone call or some other type of communication?
I knew he was there. Could have been a phone call.
This is Allie McCabe, daughter of Hen McCabe, and she was the one driving little Colin around that night.
Not sure.
Were there a variety of different ways that you would have communicated with Colin around that time?
Yes, there's other apps as well. Yes.
When you leave from there, where is it that you went?
His house and then my house.
You dropped him off at his house and then you went home?
Correct.
As far as your drive from the residence in Fairview to Colin's house, did you make any stops along the way?
No.
Allie testified that she arrived at 34 Fairview to pick little Colin up at approximately 12:10 a.m.
About how long a drive is it from Fairview to Colin's new house?
7 minutes, 5 minutes.
When I first saw the text messages, I thought they were fake. The defense eventually allowed them in as evidence, and we were able to obtain screenshots purportedly from both phones, little Colin and Allie's, and both have the same exact messages in the same exact time. 12:10 a.m. is when Allie claims she's at 34 Fairview.
The conversation about I'm here gave the time 12:10 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Are you aware how easy it is to change that time?
No.
12:06 and 55 seconds on January 29th, you left that home circle, correct?
Correct.
The home circle Paisan's speaking about is the Life360 app data. It shows a circle for which she could potentially be in. At 12:06 a.m., it indicates she left her home circle heading towards 34 Fairview.
On January 29th of 2022 at 12:23 and 14 seconds, you completed a 7-mile drive where your top speed was 42 miles an hour. Does that make sense?
Correct.
And that lines up perfectly with picking little Colin up and dropping him off, which brings us back to the allegation in the motion claiming that Allie never arrived at 34 Fairview on January 29th. You have to keep in mind that this is simply based upon the notifications that Jen McCabe received and not the actual data being outputted by Life360.
And then after arriving home again on January 29th of 2022 at 12:29 and 29 seconds, you completed a 12-mile drive on January 29th of 2022 at 12:31 and 22 seconds. Did you not?
No.
Huh? Between 12:29 and 12:31 a.m., Allie drove 12 miles? If that Life360 data was accurate, Allie was driving 382 miles per hour.
And then you left home on January 29th of 2022 at 1:08 and 15 seconds, right?
I don't believe so. Can I see what you're referring to?
Record 16 is what I just asked you about, but feel free to read the whole thing.
Thank you.
Did that help refresh your memory on where you were that night?
No.
The major problem with Life360 is that the location can be very unreliable if the phone is not connected to a Wi-Fi source and there's different interference in the area.
What, if any, knowledge do you have as far as the accuracy of sort of the timestamps that are contained within that app?
Well, I'm not sure, but on the photo he showed me, it says like turn Wi-Fi on. So that like remind Allie to turn Wi-Fi on.
Life360 will prompt the user to turn Wi-Fi on when it cannot obtain a reliable source to identify where the person is. And that's exactly what was happening during this time. Although it is very possible that Allie was cruising around Canton at over 300 miles an hour.
So that could have affected the accuracy.
Do you want to stick with that?
I'm just trying to recollect what I, thinking it over. So obviously it was a little bit longer.
Because you actually woke up when he opened the bedroom door, correct?
I don't think so.
Did you not just testify before this jury that you fell asleep and that your son Colin opened the bedroom door and woke you up to say goodnight?
Yeah, I guess that's what I said.
Okay.
So Chris's own story puts Colin in 34 Fairview at the time.
It does?
Yes.
And Mr. Albert, you needed something as simple as a ride. You were just asking Allie to give you a ride. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's because you said that it's common for you guys to text back and forth. You just texted her, hey, you can get me now. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you texted if it's easier. And then she said, okay, I'm dropping people off. And there was an exchange back and forth.
Yeah.
And there were at least 8 texts between the two of you, if you just count them up real quick, just about getting picked up.
Yeah.
You can get me now if easier. Get you from where? He doesn't say, come get me at 34 Fairview Road.
And that's a great point by Turtle Boy. And based upon Yuri Buchanik's report, he actually asked that, and little Allie claimed that she knew simply based upon the fact that it was big old Brian Albert Jr.'s birthday. However, pressing Allie and Colin at deposition with regard to how she knew to pick him up will be something that Karen's attorneys must focus on.
This could easily be come get me at Mikey Leonidas' house, because that's where he was before. Wouldn't it make sense that he would want to leave Mikey Leonidas' house when Brian Albert and everyone else is getting home from the bar? Wouldn't that make the most sense? Why would he want to leave right when his fun uncle's getting home? His story makes no sense whatsoever. And if your story makes no sense in a murder trial,
Guilty.
it's probably because you were involved in the murder. This is why I believe Colin Albert was involved in the murder. Like, none of this adds up. But you know what does add up? If he's saying, you can get me now, because he's like, Mikey Leonidas is dying down at 11:54, and he's like, I want to go to my Uncle Brian's house, because the party's just getting started over there. My Uncle Brian and his friends are fucking wild, and they let me drink there underage, so I'm going to get Allie to come pick me up here, and we can both go there and party. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
That could make sense, but there could have been a few other reasons why little Colin Albert wanted to leave the house at that particular time. Recall that there were a few girls there, including this one depicted here, that were at 34 Fairview before those party animals, Brian Albert and Higgy Bear, returned to 34 Fairview. Although if the only two girls at the party left were Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson, wouldn't you want to stay?
The thesis that O'Keefe was assaulted inside 34 Fairview hinges on Colin Albert's allegedly contentious relationship with O'Keefe. No, it doesn't, Gretchen. One of the biggest mistakes Karen Reed ever made was not telling me about Brian Higgins.
Brian Higgins?
She tells me the truth about Brian Higgins. This is a totally different story. I will never stop believing that Colin Albert was involved in this. I will never stop believing that Brian Albert was involved in this.
And that's why confirmation bias is so strong. Once your brain makes an original conclusion, it literally excludes any evidence that contradicts the original determination.
But those two took the brunt of it from the public because Karen Reed never told me about the Higgins shit.
Defendant starts off and says, "Do you like me?" Question mark. I responded, "Yes, clearly." Defendant said, "Come over my house."
That's such a big fucking part of the story. And as a result of this, the focus was on Colin and Brian Albert.
Yes.
The thesis that O'Keefe was assaulted inside 34 Fairview hinges on Colin Albert's allegedly contentious relationship with O'Keefe. No, it doesn't, actually. It doesn't hinge on that. But it does if we don't know about the Higgins text messages. It does. This is a real problem.
It certainly is, and you can't fault Turtle Boy. He was originally told that little Colin Albert and Brian Albert were the catalyst behind beating John. That's simply not the truth. However, he was getting it straight from Karen.
Because without the Higgins text message, the biggest theory is Colin's relationship with John. And quite frankly, that's not nearly as strong a motive as Brian Higgins.
Brian Higgins?
You can't blame Gretchen Voss for not knowing that if Karen Reed didn't disclose it to her or me. If Karen had told the truth about Higgins, which is an uncomfortable truth, but still your life is on the line, you got to let the world know. In an exclusive interview, though, Colin Albert told Boston, so she interviewed Colin, that he walked out of the house at 34 Fairview right when Brian Albert was arriving, said hello, and stepped into the car of his cousin, who then drove him home. According to court documents, no one else, including O'Keefe, had arrived by that point. Reed stated in an interview with Muir, "I know Brian Higgins had a role in helping kill him." Yeah, because that's what Steve Scanlon told them.
It turns out Steve Scanlon was just speculating based upon all the information that he heard at the arraignment of Karen Reed that very morning.
Helped frame me, but I don't think Higgins necessarily would have wanted to really hurt John. I think Brian Albert and Colin Albert would have enjoyed roughing him up. See, this is her. I think this is her way of coping. If she blames Brian Higgins for this, she's going to blame herself.
That's very insightful analysis by Turtle Boy, especially when he was one of the first people that were told by Karen Reed herself that little Colin Albert and Brian Albert were the people that actually beat up John. And he's saying here, had Karen told me that Brian Higgins was in love with Karen Reed, his entire philosophy would have changed straight away.
Because she was flirting with Brian Higgins and she was leading him on. And she does not want to come to terms with the fact that she dropped John off at a house with a man inside who would do this to her. And had she never flirted with Brian Higgins, he would never have done this. She doesn't want to accept that. Doesn't mean she killed him, but I think mentally it's easier for her to accept that Brian and Colin Albert played a more of a bigger role than Higgins.
One of the very few reasons human apes kill each other is the elimination of a rival male. And that's exactly what happened here. And despite Karen being the female for which both Brian Patrick Higgins and John O'Keefe were in love with, it's not her fault in any way that John O'Keefe ended up being killed on that fateful morning. But no matter what, we will never, ever stop producing these videos until the real killer,
Brian Higgins,
is brought to justice. This crime was very simple to solve because it took place within a very small area over a very short period of time with a very limited amount of suspects. One or more of these 10 people has to be the killer of John O'Keefe. That's how easy this is. Once you remove the kids and the McCabe's, you're down to just 3 suspects: Brian Albert, Higgy Bear, and Chloe. Since Chloe's a good dog, she didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I'm a good dog. I didn't do it.
So that leaves just 2 suspects, Brian Albert and Higgy Bear. But of the 2 Brians, only one had the means, motive, and opportunity to kill John O'Keefe. And that's our old cuddly but violent Higgy Bear. Once we had all the facts and didn't jump to conclusions, do you see how easy it was to solve this crime?